Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r// Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, customer bricks iPad, threatens legal action. Incompetent security, another story. Fill in a form? I've never had to do that before. Of course I'll put you through to my ING manager. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Customer bricks iPad, threatens legal action. First, a little context. I, 31M, work as a computer technician/salesman for a large office/school supply retailer. It's my job to not only sell devices but service them. As you might imagine, my position attracts a lot of older clientele, with the most banal questions and requests. Still, a lot of them are fairly self-aware in their lack of knowledge. I don't mind helping them out, and if I can teach them a thing or two, everyone benefits. Now on to the weekly feature. Though I wasn't a part of the initial contact, a couple, let's call them Rachel and Frank, came in to replace an old iPad that had outlived its usefulness. She was maybe late 40s, Jamaican, and he looked early 60s, Canadian. From my understanding, they didn't want us to set it up, and they turned down Apple Care. Can't blame them for not paying for setup. It's easy enough for seniors to do, but this has an important consequence later. 3 days later, my supervisor Sandra, 41F, mentions to me that Rachel brought the iPad back in for us to set it up for them. No problem, I said. How far did they get? It was all set up, except they didn't know their PIN code to unlock it. After heaving a sigh, she recommends we wipe it and set it up new. While the process is going, we get their account info, as we will wind up hitting the user account lock soon. They gave us their Apple ID, but you probably guessed. They didn't know their password. That's still not an issue, it just prolongs matters. A simple password recovery will do. Well, that would be great, but the pattern continues. They don't know their email password. I pull Sandra aside for the next step. After letting out and groan, well out of earshot, we take note that their email address is provided by their IP. They'd have to call their IP, waste at least a half hour on hold, and get back to us with a reset password. We send Rachel on her way, and we hold on to the iPad for when we get the call. The next day, Sandra gets a call from Frank, asking why we can't just wipe it, and why they have to jump through so many hoops. Where his wife was polite and understanding, Frank had a short fuse. Still, Sandra used her charm to reassure him. Unfortunately, his irritation was well deserved. He had spent an hour with the IP, only to choose then to tell us. He hasn't been with that IP for 4 years. They scrubbed the email account and can't do anything for a non-customer. Sandra tells him to have Rachel bring her PC in case I can reset it using iTunes. Sandra is already gone when I get there, for her son's grad, and left me notes so I'm up to date. At this point, I'm having to go into the lockup so people can't hear my groaning. I had to be straight with her. It was hard, because she was so nice throughout this whole thing. She can call Apple directly, or take it to the local repair center Apple forwards claims to, but there's nothing I can do. She asks to use the phone to call Frank. I can see this coming a mile away, so I prep my best customer service voice and prepare to dig in. As I predicted, he wants to speak to me. The first complaint was valid. We charged them for setup work we couldn't fulfill. That'd be returned, no questions asked. I went over the situation with him slowly, and explained the account lock he enabled. He explains to me that he did nothing, he didn't enter any info. All he did was hold the iPad over his phone when it asked him to, thereby transferring the account info. Apparently I didn't make any sense, because I should be able to just wipe it and start fresh. After a couple more times of explaining it, he asks me, so what are you telling me, the iPad is no good? Unless that iPad can be unlocked by Apple or by the repair center, it's unusable, I said. At this point, he demands a refund. Yes, we will refund the labor for setup back to your wife's card. Boy howdy was I stupid. He was actually asking for a refund on the iPad. And since we never touched it, we have literally no liability for what happened. He felt that we sold him something that he can't even use, and it's within the 14-day return period. I explained that because he had set up the tablet with his info, that the lock is in place because he can't remember it or recover it. Again, he says he never set it up. Of course, denying an already irate customer a $500 refund is going to cause problems. To paraphrase Frank, if you won't give me a refund, I'll talk to Sandra, or whoever the manager is. I'll get legal if I have to. I've only been in retail for 2 years, but I have enough common sense to know that when someone drops that word, you shut the F***ck up, Friday or not. I let him know that I can forward him to a manger that's in, but his wife will have to take it to the Apple Claims Center or call them. It was beyond my expertise and pay grade to represent the store if someone would be getting their lawyer involved. I knew he was blowing smoke, but you don't F***ck around with that. I returned the iPad to his wife, refunded the labor, and gave her the directions. She apologized for her husband, almost like she knew exactly what would happen. And it wasn't until after she left that I clued in, shit, he's got the same Apple ID on his phone too. Watch him blame us for that too. Incompetent security, another story. Recently our parent company demanded we clean up admin rights in our environment. We had about 150 users who had been added to the local admin group on their PC. Some because no one wanted to figure out what in their workflow needed admin rights and try and fix it, and others were temporary but never removed. Once the demand was made, parent company retreated back to their tower, leaving us alone. And thus, one day soon after our security team decreed, no longer will any user be allowed to be added to the local admin group on a PC. Every account that needs admin access must be in a security group. We will configure a GPO to rip out all entries from the local admin group and add what we choose. Will there be any way to give a user admin rights? People asked. What about even temporarily? No. No user accounts allowed in the local admin group. Security said, if someone needs admin rights temporarily, we've created the security group temporary admins that we can add them to. That group will be added to the local admin group on all PCs. But many people replied, that gives a user admin rights to all PCs, not just theirs. That seems worse than just giving them admin rights on their PC. No worry. Security will approve or deny all requests for admin rights. We will be all-knowing and keep the list in check and prevent abuse. And how long will users be allowed to stay in the group? We asked. We expect the users to let us know when they no longer need admin rights. Security replied. If you've read any of my recent stories, you know our security team is not the best. So this process was implemented, and security received all requests for PC admin rights. And then one of the biggest flaws of our security team revealed itself. They do not question anything. They get asked to do something, they do it. There were definitely times they granted admin access when stopping to question the ticket would have revealed other ways to get users access to what they need. One is TFTS worthy for sure. Time passed. All seemed to be going well. Then last week, the skies darkened. We are following up on our directive, a voice boomed from our parent company. How many users are currently in the temporary admin group? 197. Security whispered. What? The voice boomed again. How are there that many? That's more than you started with. We were expecting users to let us know when they no longer needed admin rights. Squeaked security. This is what you came up with. We need to have a discussion with you. The voice trailed off. We now wait to see what the next process will be. Most likely coming from our parent company directly this time. Fill in a form? I've never had to do that before. I was reminded of this the other day by some random chat by the guy on local radio who also spells his name this way. So thought I'd share. Years ago, working on first line at an MSP, I got a call from one of our frequent flyers. Let's call him Mr. Shouty. I think he was a car salesman and apparently good mates with one of our company directors. You know the type, I'm sure. The call went something like this. Me, good morning company NA. Mr. Shouty, cuts me off, hi it's Shouty, I've got a new member of staff, I need to get them an email address. Me, oh hi Shouty, how are you? That's no problem. I'll email you across our account request form. If you can fill in the details and send it back to me, I can get that done in a few minutes. Mr. Shouty, form? What form? Is that new? Me, no, it's been standard since I started here, so that's over a year at least. Mr. Shouty, I've never had to do that in the 7, August 9th 10 however many years I've been a customer, I'm not starting now. Me rolling eyes while logging into his AD. Okay chief, calling people chief was one of his things this time, but in future send us the form, okay? Right, what's the name? Mr. Shouty, it's Gary. I used to work with a guy who spelt Gary with double R and was always having to spell it to people, so I stop him to ask. Me, okay, is that Gary with one R or two? Mr. Shouty, what kind of FGI spells Gary with two R's? Another voice in the background on the phone, actually. Mr. Shouty, okay, send me the form. Hangs up. Maybe not exactly tech, but it's one of those calls that still gets a laugh whenever I get the Shouty types on the phone. Thankfully I'm not first line anymore, so I get a lot less of them. Of course I'll put you through to my ING manager. I was working service desk, and it was getting towards the end of the day, and we were winding down before leaving at 5 when I had a call from a very angry man, who ran a small business. He'd logged a ticket the day before for being unable to print to a specific printer, however he could walk 20 more meters and collect his documents from another perfectly fine printer. The job had been with the senior engineers for the day, as obviously, this is not the highest priority issue we'd had today. Despite being polite and offering to speak with the team leader, he flips out. I don't want you to speak with a manager, I want you to ING fix it. My boss is very good about us not taking abuse from customers, so I immediately flick him an on that it's starting to go south. I tell him I'm sorry I can't fix it, but I'll organize an engineer to give him a call tomorrow and speak with my team leader. He doesn't take this well and immediately yells, I want to speak with your ING manager. I say of course and go to transfer the call. My boss picks up and I deadpan to him, I've got a gentleman who wants to speak with my ING manager. He gives me a grin and then says to put it through. He sits on the phone for 5 seconds before asking him to stop swearing. I didn't hear this part, but evidently he doesn't stop. He immediately hangs up on the customer, speaks with the director, and has all service for this customer cancelled. Manager then says you did absolutely the right thing, and says if he ever calls back we're to put him straight through and never help him with anything. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.